Do you ever feel like society dictates that your career has an expiration date? I know that definitely is true for women more than men, especially when you're in the entertainment industry. Today's guest is here to remind you that your best years are now. Age is just a number and you are far from done. Hey everyone, welcome back to No Woman Left Behind. We are here to get you promotion ready, to gain confidence for self-advocacy, and to build an incredible community of amazing women. I'm Rosie, and today we're diving deep into a juicy topic, which is ageism at work. We are going to be talking about how to crush ageism in the workplace. We're going to talk about how to handle those tricky intergenerational relationships. And the big one, we're going to talk about how to approach retirement without losing your identity. Now, I'm 55 years old. I'm closer to retirement than not. But believe me, even if you're in your 30s, retirement will come your way pretty soon. Life is going so fast. You're going to walk away with some practical tips and a fresh perspective to keep your career thriving pretty much at any age. So you are in the right place. Let me tell you a little bit about Ande Lyons. First of all, she's a powerhouse. She's a 4-time founder. She's a startup mentor. And she has been shaking things up since the dot-com days. She has an amazing podcast called Don't Be Caged by Your Age, which I absolutely love. So with over a decade of podcasting and mentoring experience, Ande is here to share her insights on how we can confidently embrace every stage of our careers. So stick around because Ande is going to provide you with so much wisdom and goodness that is coming your way. So stay tuned for my conversation with Ande.
Are you ready to accelerate your career? Whether you're just starting out, making your move up the ladder, or ready to take the fast lane, there's one question you need to ask yourself. Where do I stand? Introducing the Promotion Readiness Quiz. In just a few minutes, discover if you're an emerging leader, a progressive pro, or a career trailblazer. Get tailored tips and strategies to help you grow, elevate your skills, and move forward faster. Curious? Take the quiz now and step into the next chapter of your career with confidence. Your career breakthrough starts here. Take the Promotion Readiness Quiz now.
Ande, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing today?
I am doing great, Rosie. A big hello to the listeners. I'm so happy you're tuning in. We're going to have a delicious conversation. And Rosie, you are an amazing host, and I'm so happy I get to have this time chatting with you about my favorite topic, shattering ageism.
Yes, thank you. Shattering ageism has been popping up more and more, especially for women in the corporate space. And we're going to talk about a variety of things. But the one thing that is still, Ande, a challenge in the corporate space is those intergenerational relationships. I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and they were making a comment like, oh, these young people, they just don't want to stay and work late. And what I said to this person was, but that's not their values. That's your value, and you're trying to make them work according to your values. So you have to understand that different people are in different stages and phases of their lives. And when it comes to working, everybody has a different definition of working hard. And so I want to start with that, the intergenerational relationships in the workplace, and how do we keep those, because I think we have about 4 generations in the workforce right now.
Mm-hmm.
How do we keep those relationships connected and give both generations, all generations, the grace and the compassion to know that other generations have different values? So let's take it from there.
Let's have a little historical perspective, right?
Yes.
So I came of age in the 70s. What I witnessed growing up as a kid, what was indoctrinated into me, was that single income would support a family. I mean, people would have a second home, a vacation, do all sorts of things on one income. And in the 70s, we were all about peace, love, rock and roll, all the good vibes. But then we hit the 80s and the indoctrination to hustle, to give everything to a company that's a real strong capitalist. It's the negative side of capitalism, that give your life up to the company. And maybe attorneys would do that, maybe doctors would do that, but not your everyday worker. In the 40s, 50s, 60s, it was all you showed up at 9, you left at 5, or you showed up at 8 and you left at 4. It was a 8-hour day with a half hour for lunch, period, end of story. But in the 80s, this need and this whole new way of working was to just, you weren't valuable unless you were giving it all. I remember when I went into banking for a minute after I earned my MBA, and I know a lot of women probably can relate to this. I'd sit around and I'd watch the men. They'd get there about 7:30 or 8. They'd get their coffee. They'd read the Wall Street Journal for a few hours, and they go for an hour and a half lunch, but they still put in that 12-hour day because they weren't valuable. They weren't perceived as being valuable to the corporation unless they put in this really long day. Now, we have a lot of kids that were raised watching their parents get the spit sucked out of them from that. Okay. And they really all said, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. And I see that in our millennials, in our Gen Zs. They watched, daycare all day. Mom and dad come home exhausted. Like, no, we can't be living. That's not life. And they really have adopted a very healthy, values-driven, very European attitude toward work, where they now are like, yes, I'm going to go in, I'm going to earn this income, I'm going to give it my all in that in an 8-hour shift, no problem. But I have a life outside of this. And I know women tuning in, because we're so good and talented at getting all the things done in like 4 or 5 hours versus 8 hours. You know what you're going to be able to get done in one day, and you want to get back to some other things. What happened, though, is that because we were rewarded for that level of work and effort and visibility, oh boy, she or he is at that desk from 8 in the morning to 6 at night, putting in 10 hours, willing to work on weekends, take clients out in the evenings and on weekends to events, we're going to reward them for that. So all of a sudden now all your achievement and all your feeling valuable and worthiness and your identity is tied up in this. So now you've got this other generation who has witnessed the downside from their parents, that putting out so much effort, going, no, we're not going to do this. So what happens is the perception from the boomers and the Gen X's is that, oh, these kids are lazy. Mm-hmm. They don't want to do this. Now, I had a .com, all right, so launched in 1998, heavily backed by VCs in Southern California. I'll never forget the conversations I had with the, quote, kids at that time. So we're talking millennials. They were talking stock options because, again, they came of age during the Clinton administration. During the .com boom, they saw a whole new world that was amazing, but they were also looking at it from what's in it for them. And again, the boomers and the Gen X's who have already sacrificed for the corporations have this skewed lens when they look at this level of work effort. Now, I'm from the startup ecosystem. I'm a 4 times founder. I was a global startup founder mentor for 8 years with major accelerator programs and individually. That's different. A founder is so locked into their passion about their business. Of course, they live and breathe it.
Yes.
But the everyday worker, I say yay to having the older generation lighten up and get a life outside of work. But finding that commonality. And then, Rosie, the other challenge that I'm seeing the older workers having is, well, I am reporting to someone who's 20 years younger than me.
Yes.
Again, because we haven't learned about this reciprocity, this ability to exchange ideas. Oh, you've got some new things that I want to learn, and I've got some things that I figured out, and I can help you from making the huge mistakes that are hard to recover from. And this whole collaborative effort, there's this ego part that says, I'm reporting to this 30-year-old who knows nothing, forget it, right? So, yeah, you've got a lot of things going on. And I go back again to being a startup founder mentor. It's different. There's so much collaboration. There's so much understanding of all the intergenerational ideas and wisdom all being pulled in together. I think we could look at that as a model and go, okay, let's do what they're doing and see if we can't, in our corporation, have a better understanding among the generations.
So it's almost like companies should start having focus groups, even if it's like once a quarter or twice a year. Focus groups with all the generations and the different ideas, kind of bucket all of the ideas and figure out what's priority and how to collaborate. So is that something that you think would work?
I really do. And I think they're going to be surprised because they're going to see a real appreciation, especially from our younger workers, the Gen Zs and the early, late millennials, born in 1990, 95. They have a deep appreciation for elders. It's a whole different ballgame. I would go to an event with the startup founders, and my biggest fan group was under 30. I'd be like, wait, not only could I be your mother, I could easily be your grandmother, right? And they're like, no, you're fascinating. So I think if we come to a point, place, right, of a state of mind, stop telling ourselves the story that what do they know? I'm the one with wisdom here, and just look at it as like, wow, let me tap into some of their energy, and their passion and their excitement, sort of get reinvigorated. I love that idea of the focus groups, and certainly exercises that people can do to help bring more collaboration and understanding.
Yeah. In my family, we have nieces and nephews, and my kids are 23 and 25, but there's from 30 all the way down to 12. And the perspectives, Andy, that we get from each person on whatever topic we're talking about is so varied and diverse. I always learn when I'm talking to my nieces and my nephews when they're talking about, especially like social media and things like that, because I'm not an expert. I wasn't brought up in it. They are experts. And almost every time that my daughter's over here, she's like, Mom, just do it like this on your phone. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? She's like, well, I didn't know you didn't know. So
But Rosie, I'm going to interrupt for 1 second because this is something that happens a lot to the older generation, which is they think that the younger generation are whizzes at the social media. Look, they're whizzes on a social level. They're not whizzes at a marketing business development level, right? And
yes.
so, again, extrapolating all that great information, and I just love the different, like as you said, the different perspectives. I have a 28-year-old and a 26-year-old, and my 26-year-old is game design, and he was putting together, quote, his resume. He goes, Mom, we don't do resumes like that anymore. It's what you've built. In the tech industry, it's what have you made? What have you built? What have you coded? What have you done? And actually, it's with a lot of industries, very skills-based, very portfolio-based versus I worked at this company from this period to that period and did this and increased revenue and did all these KPIs and whatever. He's like, no. And so I had to have my aha moment when he started interviewing.
That's awesome, and that's awesome for me to know too, because we write resumes, and for a lot of people that we write resumes, it's all the metrics, like it's all the prove your accomplishments in the way of metrics. So you can't really build things like, for example, I was in the insurance industry. It's paper, just virtual, products that we give, but definitely, what are your accomplishments in the way of metrics? So now I know that a lot of people are aging, obviously. My mom is actually one of 10, and they're all still alive between
What a
like
gift.
65 and 85, something like that. And my dad is one of six. Three of them are still alive, and my aunt is 92 and sharp as a tack. So we know that people are living a lot longer these days. And you and I had a brief conversation about the two women in New York that their brand is Luster, and they are talking also about almost like your third of your life. What is it that you can do when you are starting to get into your mid 50s? And I've noticed a lot, people come to me and they're like, I've been in the corporate world for 30 years, which is exactly what I did. I just finished my 31-year career in the corporate world, and now I'm a full-time entrepreneur, which I never saw myself as a full-time entrepreneur in my entire life. So it just kind of happened.
Rosie, when did you launch your business?
Well, I launched it about 3 years ago, but this is the first year that I'm working in it full time, transitioning from my full time job. And it's such a different perspective because many women are coming to me, especially women are coming to me. They're, again, late 50s, early 60s, and they're like, I want to do something after the corporate world, but I don't know what I want to do. So let's talk about how should we think of people now retiring? And again, the TikToks that I saw are the two women talking, and they were like, I was a lawyer and now I'm not. And so it's very awkward to talk to people. Now you're retired. And then when you say the word retired, and I know we're going to talk about changing that word, people discount you and then they kind of walk away from you. And so
that's what the word means. Walk
yes,
away. Leave.
Yes. And then when people you're trying to share, that wisdom and expertise. And I think that's my point here, is that all these people that are choosing to retire, they have so much wisdom and expertise, and they're wanting to share it back into the world. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, we have entire generations of wasted talent happening right now because these are very talented people. What we know from several studies is that 7 out of 9 pre-retirees have no interest in stopping their work. They may have an interest in having it be a 30-hour week, but they plan on contributing for as long as they can because they understand humans are made to wake up in the morning with a sense of purpose.
Yes.
And what happens when you don't have that is what the World Health Organization came out with in 2021, an epidemic, okay, that's costing societies, not just us, Canada, a lot of other societies, billions of dollars, because you have a whole group of people who are sitting at home going, now what? And the more you sit and the more you get depressed and you're not engaged and you're invisible and you're not finding some way to tap in to society and stay connected, your health declines. Dementia starts happening when you're not moving or trying new things. I think the mantra for anybody over 60 is, I can do new things.
Yes. Right? Yes.
And so
and by the way, Andy, I'm going to share with you that the rec center by my house, all the senior citizens are playing pickleball. And I just played pickleball for the first time this last week, and it was fun, and it was easier than tennis. So I can totally see how that's taken off. But it's cool to see people in their 60s, 70s that are active and that are contributing. And many of them do want to share their expertise. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, and then you have a whole group of high performers, high achievers, right? Who are so identified with who they are, they cannot imagine, like, who am I going to be now? So someone like you is so important. A transition coach, executive transition coach, so important. If your listeners get anything from this conversation, is do not try to reimagine how you want to be over the next 20 to 30 years without someone helping you, unless you are so self-driven. And you can go through my favorite book, Don't Retire, Rewire, and do all the exercises and come out with your big bingo. This is the time to invest in yourself, peel off what you have in Social Security or savings, whatever, and hire that person and see it as an investment in your happiness, in your health. Because once you find out what fuels your passion, what's aligned with your personality, you can continue working. So you're going to, fill your pocketbook because, again, you're going to be living much longer. And when they go, maybe some of the listeners have heard or seen the blue zone information, maybe read about it or seen it on Netflix. It's not what they're eating. It's not clean air. It's not any of those. It is the connection, that human connection that's meaningful, that is helping them age in a wonderful way.
And actually, I did watch the Blue Zone, and one of the things they were doing is they were sitting on the floor. So they had to get up multiple times, off the floor every day, not sitting in a chair. So they were considerably different lifestyle, obviously, than what most Americans have, but they were intentional about how they were active and they're, again, being productive and purposeful in their day-to-day.
Well, and a new study is out now, too, about moving your body, because it taps in and doing new things. Oh my gosh, this is even more important. Certainly getting out and going for a walk, very important, but trying some new things as well. There's a part of the brain that Alzheimer's attacks immediately. I think it's called the hippocampus. I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, but when you are walking, when you're trying new things, that stimulates it. It keeps it strong. It keeps parts of your brain strong. And they're seeing that folks can put off any kind of memory decline, dementia, etc., by remembering to move the body and to try new things like the pickleball. But also our age group, I want to remind everybody that, and we get slammed often by the younger generation about not being tech savvy. We were the ones who brought tech to the world in the 70s, late 60s and 70s. We were coding using mainframes, okay? Do not get caged by your age around technology. It is your friend. It really is not that hard. Get rid of that story you tell yourself, I can't do that. It always reminds me of women who say that, oh, I'm terrible with numbers. I go, oh, no. I seen you go in there and something's 20% off or 25% off. You calculate that very quickly. Same thing with tech. You can do it. Your phone, there's a YouTube video for anything you want to do.
Yes. I look up so much stuff on how to use applications and things like that. But when I don't know how to do something, I look it up and I figure it out. And it takes me a little bit longer than maybe someone that's younger than I am, but I always figure it out. It might take me a little bit longer, but I always figure it out. So that's, and the love of learning too. All of these high achievers have that love of learning, and they want to apply that, everything that they know, their wisdom, plus everything that they learn, and again, give it back to society. So tell me a little bit about the word retiring and how we can change that, because again, so many people, and I will say, for when I was younger, maybe even 10 years ago, okay, when I retire, I'm going to have the whole day and I'm just going to do, whatever I want. But again, you have to have some kind of routine. So I have my morning routine, and I don't have little kids. We don't have pets. It's just my husband and I. My morning routine, Andy, believe it or not, sometimes is 3 to 4 hours long, because I meditate for an hour. I work out for 30, 40 minutes. I'll journal. I'll get my coffee, my water.
Rosie, I am like, can I fist bump you through the camera here?
Yeah.
100%.
I jump in the shower at 8 o'clock and I'm ready by 9. I'm like, how is it possible that I wake up at 5 a.m. and I can't get to my desk till 9? But I start my morning off very slow. And then from 9 to 5 p.m., I'm going like a fiend working. But you have to have some kind of morning routine to get your day started. So let's talk about that, Andy.
Imagine a space where your career aspirations are supported by a community that truly understands your journey. A space designed for women like you, ready to elevate their careers. Our monthly membership includes everything from expert training and monthly workshops to a custom career roadmap. Join a supportive community where group coaching and networking turn your professional goals into achievable milestones. Celebrate your wins with a network of women who are as invested in your success as you are. Unlock the leader within.
Let's definitely talk about this. Women entering their 50s have often are often going through a self-reflection period because for decades they've been looking outwards, taking care of family, community, aging parents, all the things, right? So to think that you're going to go from having this tiny little window of a few years and that's it. No, this is a time of life to break out. In fact, there's a woman out there, Sarah Hart. She has a platform called Prime Spark. She's 79. Now, she was part of the first women's movement where she was walking down Madison Avenue, swinging her bra and throwing it in the fire, right? She sees this period as the second women's movement because now between 55 and 80, this is the Renaissance period. This is like, what do I want to do? Listeners, look at Rosie getting up every day, having plenty of time to nurture herself and get into her day however works best for her. And so this gets me very excited for folks in understanding that retire means walk away. So you really should think of it as rewire. How are you going to reimagine your future? How do you want to work in the world? How do you want to continue sharing your gifts with the world? And also, another thing that you've done so well, Rosie, is you've got this wonderful energy portfolio. We pull together investment portfolios. We're watching them, whether it's on Robinhood or Vanguard or however you're managing your 401ks and retirement funds. Your energy portfolio is really making a decision. How am I going to use this energy of mine, right? Because as you do get into the 60s and 70s, your body starts to age in many different ways. I think 50s are amazing. But 60s, mid 60s, you're starting to see that you're embracing new challenges. So you have to be careful of the energy. But this conversation is so important to have. It's who do I want to be? How do I want to use my energy? And again, do not do this alone. You need someone who sees in you what you cannot see about yourself. So you may be sitting there stuck going, oh my God, the day is like forever. I'm done watching The View. I'm done, playing with grandkids. I'm done in my garden. I am bored and I'm getting depressed. And all they're going to do is put you on some drugs. Whereas if you were able to have someone help you identify, take you through the exercises and extrapolate things that you cannot see and hold up that mirror, so important.
Yes. And Andy, I've always found it so interesting that as we're growing up, we have all the coaches, the baseball coach, the dance coach, the piano coach, all the varsity coach, football, all that stuff. And then magically, when you go into college, you stop talking about coaches, unless you're in sports. And then you go into the workforce and you're just supposed to know how to figure it out. You're just supposed to know how to do things. And the same thing happens when you retire. And I had heard another conversation about a year ago, similar conversation of like, yeah, you retire and then all of a sudden you find yourself losing the identity, losing who you were, and then not having that respect. Because when you're a doctor or an attorney or a corporate executive, the way I was, and then you're no longer that, you're not seeing the same. So that identity and how people treat you is so
this
different.
Is why really folks in their late 50s, early 60s are actually having panic attacks because this is so important. So what do you do to be seen? I recently launched a community called the New England Podcasters Community because I didn't see a community that I wanted to participate in. So I said, okay, I'll create it, knowing that people would surface up, bubble up, and I can delegate and get others involved to help grow the, but that this is so important. We're all sharing ideas, how to up our game, featured speakers coming in and helping us get better. I get to share my 12 years as a podcast host with folks, and I get to learn new things about what others are doing. I mean, the tools out here for podcasting are amazing. And listeners, don't hesitate to launch a podcast and quote in your Renaissance years. It's a wonderful way to stay connected and meet great people, right, Rosie?
Absolutely. And I love that you had said use whatever savings or whatever you have, but invest it in
Best.
a coach, invest it in a guide, in someone that's wise, that has already been through the process. The saddest thing to me that I've ever heard is when people retire and then they die from a heart attack within 2 weeks,
Yeah.
or and that happens all the time. And or people that retire and then they just sit, and then their health declines very quickly because they're not moving, they're not doing anything. So I do feel that we are in a renaissance, like you said, of people knowing who they are, understanding who they are, and how they can contribute to the world. Does that
That's
make
right.
sense?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. And planning, because I can tell that that's a lovely and delicious word for you, Rosie, as it is for me. Systems and procedures and strategies, yay. Uh, Planning. We plan by doing the right things with the right insurance policies. We plan with savings. Now, we know from all the numbers, the data, that boomers have done a lousy job at this. The average savings is somewhere between 88,000 and 160,000. So we've got a workforce that's going to want to keep working to fill their pocketbooks. But
Yes.
again, peeling off $5,000 which you would spend on a vacation anywhere, taking that and saying, I'm going to use this and I'm going to invest it, and kick the tires with people. And if you get on with a coach you don't like, move on. It's okay to make mistakes. You don't have to stay with them. Find the right person who's aligned with you, who is going to extrapolate and help you find and identify. That is ideal. I also want to talk a little bit about those of you who want to become entrepreneurs.
Yes.
There's so many great mentorship programs out there to help you, and that are for free. There are accelerator programs everywhere that are for free. And of course, there's SCORE.
Yes.
But there's a lot of information. The most important thing you'll be doing is shifting your employee mindset, where you were rewarded for achieving different things and metrics, to an owner's mindset. And that's going to be one of the hardest and biggest transitions you will make, because now you're working not just in the business, you have to work on the business. So watch all the YouTube, whatever you need, go hear people speak about that, because the owner mindset is much different than the employee mindset.
Absolutely. And as an owner, it's great to launch a business because you learn so much and you have to wear all the hats and you have to understand how it all fits in, and the analytics and the content creation and obviously I'm about to release, well, actually by the time this episode releases, I would have already launched my 100th episode. So
Wait a minute, let me get the clappers out.
yay, thank you. So I'm very excited about that. So Ande, tell me, how do you help people that come to you and say, Ande, can you help me? How can you help people?
I have been helping people for decades. I'm a 4 times founder. I'm 67, almost 68 now. The best way for me to encourage folks to learn more about this work in the world is to tune in to the Don't Be Caged by Your Age podcast. Come to the website, sign up for the email. Once a month, I do a recap of the episodes, but I also include resources to help you. But it's mostly these 30 to 40-minute conversations with folks who have shattered age-related expectations. From someone who's a private investigator, a woman, to a model at the age of 65, to someone who decided to write a book at the age of 68. All sorts of different ways that you can stay connected. And I don't have clients or anything like that. I provide resources and inspiration and hand-holding as you walk into and through this very important, enlivened time. And especially women, gendered ageism is huge out there. And so you'll hear it in tones when people talk to you. They tend to all of a sudden, you turn 65 and now they've got the toddler language. Oh, sweetie, you need to do this. Oh, honey. Oh, you sweet little thing, you. Yeah. Wait, I'm a I'm a grown woman with decades
Yes.
of experience behind me. Can you just take that tonality and go do a timeout, please?
It's so interesting. So,
Yes.
Amy, I'm interested in your story. So, obviously, you have done a lot of different things in the tech space and things like that. So, how did you come to, launch 3 podcasts and do the work that you're doing today?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. I often tell people, hello, my name is Andy. I've been unemployable since 1992. I've had 4 businesses. I mean, I've been fired lots of times. Yeah, as one of my friends who was big in the HR world says, Andy, we don't hire this. And she'd do the wand down my body. So, I have built up over the years businesses. I had a tech company during the dot-com days. I had a food manufacturing company I scaled nationally. I've had platforms, et cetera. And as I mentioned earlier, a mentor to founders. I had a pitch event here in Boston every month for founders. And it was, really in the summer of 2022, and I turned 66, I was really never telling anybody about my age. So I bought that US Route 66 sign off Amazon, and I took a picture of myself. And honestly, I look like, will you still love me now that you know I'm so old? Yeah, it would. But the post went viral, and I learned so much from the conversation, from people who had shattered age-related expectations to people who were suffering with this whole retirement thing. And so it just, how sometimes things just push on you and push on you until you say yes. So I have been podcasting since 2012. I've been live streaming since 2012. If you want to watch 250 phenomenal interviews with startup founders from around the world, you can hop onto my YouTube channel or go check out Startup Life Show on your favorite podcast platform. But what I learned was that I needed to be in this area because I have what we call a good founder market fit. I'm a 67, almost 68-year-old woman. The biggest gift from this was going from being embarrassed to say I was this old to aging out loud. When all of a sudden you dilute all this energy, this negativity around aging, which society and corporations will be happy to tell you, we're not going to invest in you anymore because you're in your 50s now. We know you're sliding into retirement home base, right? So you're done. As if ambition were ageless. Society is saying, what? You've got a wrinkle? Oh my God, you may as well just die. Let's help you fix that because you should feel ashamed that you have these wrinkles and let's get you that Botox. All the messaging. What gray hair? Oh, forget it. When you all of a sudden embrace your age and say, of course I've got barnacles and brown spots and wrinkles. I'm this old. And guess what? There's a lot of people that don't make it to this age. And I get to have more deliciousness in life and I get to have more fun and figure things out and learn new things. But mostly to be proud and loud about your age. This is the greatest gift. And one of my favorite stories is I had Judith Koenig on the show. She's remarkable high performance transition executive coach, and she's 72. I make everyone on my show say their age. Well, she was afraid to share the episode because even though her clients know her age, the world did not. And she was ashamed. And so on LinkedIn, she said, I have been afraid. This was like maybe 4 weeks after the episode. I've been afraid to share this with everyone, this incredible conversation I had with Ande Lyons, because I was afraid to let everybody know my age. But you know what? Here I am, and I'm loud and proud. So that is what led me to want to help the world in this unique way, which is to just say, it is. And I interview people, Rosie, they've got glaucoma. They can't even see out of one eye. They've got horrible arthritis or COPD or some other things. It is not stopping them. They found ways to contribute without leaving the house, right? To feel connected, to feel like they're adding value to, those, we tend to highlight those who are scaling mountains in their 80s or doing marathons when they're 100. No, you got to do what's in alignment with who you are. So I am clearly very passionate about this topic because, as Cyndi Lauper says in her wonderful accent, it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for sharing your story, Andy. And I've always been puzzled when women are like, "Oh no, I'm not going to tell you my age." Like even like some close friends of mine are like, "Oh no," I'm like, "Why? I'm 55. I'm also, again, like I have wrinkles, of course. The body deteriorates, as you age. But the shame of it is that women feel ashamed, whereas when men age, they become more distinguished, and it's like that's the whole.
Yeah, it's the gendered ageism. It's
Yes,
for reals. And that's why we have the second women's movement. And
yes.
there's a wonderful, wonderful platform called Glorious Broads. Go follow it on Instagram. Wonderful stories from women. Oh my gosh. And celebrating all aspects of themselves in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And
Yes, and I don't know if you've seen or if you've heard the podcast from Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
yes. Well, we
Now
know.
interviewing, all the women over 80, and you hear all the stars. And Jane Fonda's was so
Oh,
funny. She's like, I'm not dating now. I don't need anybody to see all of this. So she's just so funny. But I love that Julia Louis-Dreyfus is doing that because you get that perspective of how is life going to be in those 80s, and tools and tips and tricks that they do to feel better about themselves and come into their own. So
that's right, Rosie. And listeners, if you see it, you can be it. All
yes,
right. So oh my
Julia.
God. Julia Louis Dreyfus, thank you, was saying, of course, her acceptance speech was only 5 words. It was wonderful. But what she's doing on the big scale with all the luminaries is what I'm doing with everyday folks.
Yeah.
Because again, we're all, we're not in the limelight and economically, you know, brilliant as they all are. But as everyday folks, how can we figure this out together? Because you're alive.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Andy. Well, this conversation has absolutely been wonderful. Is there maybe one takeaway tip that you could leave the listeners with, that if they are considering or, approaching retirement, how they can manage that?
Well, first of all, it's a privilege to age, right? And just like you have been planning, and I know it's kind of reiterating what I said earlier, but plan for this time.
Mhm.
Plan. I don't care what you've got going on physically. Ailments are going to happen. Figure out what you can do. Explore, discover, bring that youthfulness that's inside of you, right? Because, age is a state of mind. And
Mhm.
so if you can tap into what might excite you, it can fuel your passion, do the work, read the books, listen to the podcasts, and find that spark within you because it is there. Plan for that so that you can remove some of the anxiety of retirement and you can start looking at it as a rewirement and a renaissance period.
I love that. I interviewed a financial planner, and she said one of the challenges that she saw her retirees come across is that they weren't trying things out before they retired. So the example that she gave, this gentleman retired, and then he bought all the stuff for fly fishing, went fly fishing, and he hated it. And she's like, so try what you think you might want to do in your retirement age before you retire so that you kind of get a little bit taste of if it's something that you want to pursue or something that you never want to do again. So I
Well, and
think,
also be gentle with yourself because we've been indoctrinated to not make mistakes, like get it right the first time. I got to tell you, it's an experiment. You're going to pull on threads. There's this female attorney who everybody loved her landscaping, which was like a passion of hers on the side. She was all become a landscaper. Well, within months, she said, I hate this, just like the fly fishing. She's like, I'm out. It's okay to say, you know what? That showed me A, what I don't want to be doing, and B, what I do want more of, which is more connection and more engagement versus another person could go, oh my God, I don't have to talk to anybody all day. I'm with the plants. Hooray.
yeah. And then the other thing that you said is it made me think of Tony Robbins' quote where focus goes, energy flows. So if you are putting attention on something other than yourself, serving people, maybe those ailments are not as, it's not the focus. You're not focused on, oh, I don't feel good. I don't.
Right.
If you try to serve and help others, that will also improve your life. So, all great information. Well, Ande, thank you so much for coming on to our podcast. This has been an absolute delight.
Oh, I have loved every minute. And I know I started off saying this. You are a phenomenal host. Thank you for this wonderful, wonderful interview.
Thank you very much, Ande. I just decided that I want to emulate Ande when I get to be her age. She is not only a powerhouse, but she's energetic and she's fun and she is just getting started. I want to do a quick review of the top 3 takeaways that I got out of my conversation with Ande, and I hope that you got a lot of wisdom and ideas as well. First of all, she says ageism, forget it. She said, whether you're 35 or you're 65, find ways to stay engaged, learn new things, and show your value. Learning new things, I think, is a huge thing because it keeps your brain moving, it keeps your brain going, and you're less likely to go into those dementia and Alzheimer's if you keep your brain operating. The second thing is intergenerational relationships can work and you can thrive as long as you recognize that there are differences and different values between the generations. Whether you're a boomer or a millennial, you can thrive. You just have to collaborate, support, and respect each other. And then the last thing, and this is really cool, she says it's no longer retirement, it's rewirement. She says, plan ahead and find new ways to contribute that excite you. So those are my 3 takeaways. Ande leaves us with one actionable tip. She says, don't try to figure out retirement alone. Invest in a coach who can help you navigate the new chapter with purpose and confidence. And I think what's so interesting here is that when we are building our careers, we are trying to find that purpose and build that confidence, and you still, those themes, the purpose and confidence, still continue even into your retirement. And before you go, please don't forget to take the promotion readiness quiz. This is a way for you to find if you're on track for that next big career leap. The quiz will give you an indication of how promotion ready you are, and you will get a lot of value by taking the quiz. And if you're ready to connect with amazing like-minded women who are all about leveling up, please check out the Unlock the Leader Within membership. So you're going to find all the links to the quiz, the membership, and to Ande's connections or taglines on the episode website. So you can check all that out. And last but not least, I would love it if you could share this episode with fantastic women in your life. We really need to support and encourage each other now more than ever. So I hope that you are left feeling pumped and ready to take control of your career at any age, whether it's crushing ageism or embracing new challenges. You've got this. So with that, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.